Hi, everyone. Happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday. This is Clay Farris bringing your Medicaid news from Medicaid on the Brain of August 21st, 2026. Thank you for being here. If you are new here, I'll cover the Medicaid news that's happened in the last week or so. We'll do some job hunter shout-outs, what the team found in each of the different community groups if you're looking for a job. And we'll also do Acronym of the Day and Mission Possible. So, as always, I'll be going through Intel reports. I'll be calling out numbers of items that made it in the Intel report in the last week. So, if you're new here, make sure you're grabbing your copy in the different peer groups. These are all different LinkedIn groups. Just find those and join those, and you'll start to get on that distribution list. Also, if you're new, I will cover MCO news, tech news, pharmacy news, CMS news, state news, if we have it, some reform news, and fraud news each and every week in that order. First up, let's do MCO news. Kind of have a dominance of United Health this week. First item, number one in your Intel report, Aurora Investment Managers invest $7.5 million in United Health Group. So as we watch the continued profiteering of the large nationals unfold, largely in shareholder calls, this one's interesting because it shows a large fund manager placing a sizable bet on United Healthcare. The $7.5 million makes it one of the larger holdings in the stock itself. That's actually the seventh largest in there. This comes on the news of several major investors increasing their United Healthcare holdings. So while the large national MCOs are chicken littling everyone through their lobbyists and through their press lackeys, there's oh no, all this Medicaid reform is going to hurt everything. Investors are licking their chops and lining up. They get it. They understand the joke, saying, we think you're still going to make pretty good money. I'll let you guys dive into the details in your Intel reports. Item one, if you want to look more at this particular one. A couple more quick hits. Both of these, again, United. The second one is United Health ranked fourth globally as earnings dropped and a breakup bill looms. Again, the fourth largest company in the world, one of the biggest players in our Medicaid and Medicare space. I promise you there's plenty of money to be made off the backs of the poor on the safety net. Item number four, United Health Group expands health hubs in Tennessee and looks to go nationwide. So if you're looking at this one, United's dropping like $4 million with the University of Tennessee to expand rural health hubs that they operate in Tennessee. This is going to grow from 5 to 13 locations in about 2 years, so by the end of 2027. And I think it's going to serve another 200,000 rural residents. All right, let's move on to tech news. So this week in tech news is an interesting one. In case you missed it, Accenture Health acquires FEI Systems to expand government technology or government healthcare technology platform. So this is one where we kind of played the family tree game a few years ago. I believe it was Cognosante. I know it started with a C, but I'll check my notes later. Had a baby with Keypro, the old eCro vendor, and called it Accenture. And now Accenture has bought one of the bigger names in our space, that's FEI Systems. And most of this comes from a press release, so there's not a lot of meat on the bone, but I think you know to read between the lines now. Essentially, Accenture is going to leapfrog some of the development learning curve and LTSS tech solutions that are installed in MLTSS plants across the nation. And, of course, to gain access to the contract base that FEI has built over the last few decades. FEI has been around for 27 years now and is a known quantity in our space. All right, let's move on to pharmacy news. In case you missed it, item 6 in your Intel report, CVS expands GLP-1 access with $29 visits and a deal with Lilly. The TLDR on this one is that CVS has an idea of how it's going to move up its position in the GLP-1 horse race. It's got a weight management program that it's now going to push through its minute clinics with $29 visits, and it's also promising same-day dispensing of GLP-1s and some in-person pharmacist support. So now instead of going to your local longevity or hormone therapy replacement clinic or dermatologist or whatever to also get your Botox and GLP-1s, you can go to your local CVS. So maybe Dollar General should consider a similar thing and open up services for its own set of chronic conditions that it thinks it can monetize. CVS is saying that patients consuming from their GLP-1 supply might be able to pay as little as $25 a month. With commercial coverage, some may have to pay up to $150 a month. Remember, these are the things that were thousands and thousands of dollars a month just a few short years ago. So people, they figure it out. they always figure out how they can make money on these larger markets. CVS is one of the participating members in the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge program, which is going to get Medicare bennies access to the drugs for about $50 a month, at least through, I think, 2027. Let's move on to CMS news. So item 7 in your Intel report this week is CMS releases fiscal year 2027 IPPS final rule. If you're not familiar with the acronym, that's the Inpatient Prospective Payment System. So CMS is going to update that like every year, as far as I know, as far as all the years I've been doing this. And they're going to say what they're going to pay for different things and what's in and what's out. They're putting in some new rules. This year's rule comes with a 2.3% bump for payments for certain Medicare services. It's also going to increase some of the financing extras in the Medicare program. So they have ways they get extra payment beyond what you think they're getting paid, just like we do in the Medicaid space. They have an uncompensated care program in Medicare and a supplemental payments program. Those are going to go up by about 2.9%. That's another $8 billion that you, the taxpayer, are going to pay because Medicare network providers pinky swear they're underpaid. In the IPPS final rule, CMS also approved 19 new technologies to get those add-on payments. I think that we've covered that before. The acronym's NTAP. In fiscal year 2027, and they're going to let add-on payments ride for another 41 technologies that have already gotten the approval. Other nuggets in the rule, there's a new measure for hospital readmissions reduction in it. So if you want to know more details, all the other stuff that's in there, check out item 7 in this week's Intel report for more information. For now, let's do a couple quick items in state news. Remember, there's always much more in your Intel report, usually a couple dozen stories across the states. If you want to check out the map, you can see the other places that we covered in the Intel report. Today, I'm really just going to look at 2 items. It's going to be, I think this is Indiana is the first one, and then Kentucky. Yeah, Indiana story, item 8 in your Intel report. State rolls out tools for new Medicaid work requirements. The TLDR on this one is the state is going to great lengths to communicate to members via text messages, town halls. They've got this new screening tool that will help members understand if they themselves are subject to work requirements, just to make sure everyone knows who exactly is and who exactly isn't subject to the work requirements. Remember, nobody's subject to them that's not in the ACA adult expansion group, and there's various exemptions even within that. So Indiana's going to make sure folks have plenty of opportunities to hear the actual rules amidst the sea of misinformation being put out there by the press and quote-unquote advocates that would like for you to think that your disabled blind Medicaid member grandmother is going to have to prove that she's working. Spoiler alert, that's not true. In addition to sending out text messages and these town halls, the agencies created this tool, this assessment, that Clay member can grab, I think, on his phone and see if he has to meet the work requirements. So I'd have to answer basic questions related to my health, to my income, related to things like, am I working? Am I going to school? Am I volunteering in my community? So the state agency has partnered with this group called Covering Kids and Families to also host a series of town halls. If you want to see the schedule of those, that's actually in the location information. That's in the Intel report, item 8. Now let's jump to item 9 in the Intel report. That's Kentucky AG Coleman joined 17-state coalition backing the Stop Fraud in Medicaid Act. So we're trying to get an act passed in Congress. So there's now 17 states that are trying to get Congress to do something about the now evident pervasive fraud in the Medicaid program. These states are appealing to the House Energy and Commerce Commission as well as the Senate Finance Committee to support the legislation. Now let's take a quick look at fraud news before we start to do closeout. Relatively low dollar this week of $18.6 million of new fraud cases that we caught in the news. Remember, we pull all these into your Intel report. If you want to see all the individual stories, you'll find things like group home fraud in Alaska racking up $14.7 million. You'll see that somebody's been indicted for personal care services fraud in Connecticut. You'll see some remaining things in Wisconsin that are kind of winding down as we just complete the look at the absolutely pervasive, pernicious fraud that was there. There's people now getting sentenced. And in Pennsylvania, you're going to see some home health care fraud in this week's report. As I remind you each and every week, whenever there's financial fraud, there's almost always a Medicaid member actually being physically harmed. And if you're one of the many who are denying that Medicaid fraud is either prevalent or pretending it's politically motivated to talk about it, you need to go take your seat next to the flat earthers. Let's take a quick gander at what the team found in Job Hunter this week. Remember, we put these up. We put detailed packets in each of your Intel reports in your specific ones for your community group. So if you're, for example, working in a Medicaid plan, look in your Medicaid plan Intel report to see what we found. I'll just kind of leave this up on the screen for a second for folks watching this. If you're watching it later, you can hit pause. But each and every week that we are finding, new roles you may be interested in. Also, if you're an employer, you can kind of see what people are hiring for. Now let's do grab bag. And the first item in grab bag is going to be acronym of the day. This is SPA. This is State Plan Amendment. If you're new to the space, I think the way the team put it on the infographic, I think on item 2 here on the infographic is a change order for Medicaid. That's a real good way to think about it. So this is when the state has to amend their state Medicaid plan, which is essentially a contract they have with CMS for who's eligible and what services they can provide under the regular state plan, separate from waivers, that kind of stuff. And there's all these rules about, how they submit it to CMS and when CMS can approve it, and public notices that have to be, that have to happen in certain newspapers in their state, that kind of stuff. But basically, a SPA, that State Plan Amendment, SPA, can change benefits or payment rates or eligibility and other program rules. You're going to see there's places you can track if you want all the different SPAs that CMS approves or not. And last week on August 11th, they approved new ones in Nevada and Michigan for things related to dental payments and also things related to speech and oral function therapy. So SPA is the acronym of the day, State Plan Amendment. And let's do Mission Possible. I want to jump kind of off script here for Mission Possible this week. And I think folks have on LinkedIn have seen me talk about Count Benface. If you're not familiar with that, it's a comedy candidate in Britain who recently really had a good showing against Nigel Farage. You should look that up, Binface. And I think my Mission Possible this week, there's a lot of times I think we, myself included, give up on our political process. And I just want to encourage everyone to think about, if you were to run for office, what is the lowest level of office you would consider running for? Maybe just think about that. Like for me, it would probably be a local town council, something like that. But maybe give that a possibility in your mind, because I do believe there are some people in our space who have things and causes that they may not feel like they can impact from where they are. And I think I'm giving out a shout to all of the Medicaid on the Brain fam and audience. Maybe you can. And what would that be? The first step, I think, is finding that initial place to plug in. So think about that. I'd love to hear your comments on what you came up with of, if you were to run for office, what would be that lowest level? And that's it for this week's Medicaid on the Brain. I hope it's helpful for you. I appreciate all the amazing work you're doing in the Medicaid space to help impact members, to help make the space better, to help it try to get more back to what it's actually purposed for. But thank you for being a part of what we are doing. And until next week, I'm Clay Farris. I will see you on the next episode of Medicaid on the Brain.